Traveling in modern Japan is to experience the gulf between modernity and ancestral tradition. Kyushu, the archipelago's westernmost island, offers the visitor unspoiled nature and traditions which present a portrait of authentic Japan. Whether they be craftsmen, fishermen, farmers, or even artists, the inhabitants of this volcanic land link a spiritual quest to their work, a quest which they want to protect, sometimes safeguard, and share. Before venturing into Kyushu's interior, let us take a detour to Iki Island, which lies an hour's sailing from the coast in the Sea of Genkai. It's one of the many islands which surround Japan's coastline. A volcanic island 17 kilometers long, it's home to 28,000 people. Its magnificent deserted beaches are beginning to attract the attention of Japanese tourists. While tourism is slowly developing, fishing remains the island's principal resource. Along Ohama Beach, sea urchins are still collected by hand, the divers using a mask and snorkel. Despite the cold, late October waters, the fishermen spend hours diving to the seabed and back. Their catch will be offered either directly to restaurants or the daily fish market at Konura. The main fishing port is Katsumoto in the north of the island. The boats return here after spending the night out at sea. Iro Kumamoto fishes exclusively for squid. His boat has several lines of electric light bulbs. When you turn the lights on, it attracts the squid, and you can catch them more easily. Iki's squid is one of the most sought after in Japan, with a taste that experts consider to be very delicate. Iro likes to eat it raw. Preparing them is quite simple. You let them dry for about 12 hours in the sun, and then you eat them straight away. The taste is sweet and salty. It's absolutely delicious. Now 68 years old, the captain is ready to hand over to his son. Despite the ever-rising price of fuel, the resources are still there, and he is keen to perpetuate the tradition. The island is scattered with temples nestling among the vegetation, like this one at Tsukiyomi, dedicated to the god of the moon. Nearby, ancient dwellings are being restored. It's a long job, as, through the ages, wood is less permanent than stone. The natural habitat also hides its own surprises, like this basalt cliff known as Monkey Rock. We begin our odyssey in the north of Kyushu at Kashima, and the magnificent Shintoist temple Yutoku Inari Jinya. It's dedicated to Inari, represented in the form of a fox. He's the god of fertility of the paddy fields, and more recently of commerce and fishing. It's the most famous of Japan's temples dedicated to Inari. It's also the temple of the Nabeshima clan, which was responsible for protecting Edo's interests, particularly in the city of Nagasaki, one of the few ports open to contact with foreigners during Japan's period of isolation, which began in the 17th century. The Nabeshima clan were experts in the arts of pottery and ceramics. 49-year-old Tomohisa Nabishima is the clan's modern heir. He greets visitors and has religious as well as managerial training, both of which are necessary in order to raise the funds which finance the temple. While these red and white clad young women are religiously educated, they're not nuns but miko. They help the priest with his daily chores and during ceremonies. They're employed by the temple or are sometimes volunteers. I take care of a number of religious festivals. In fact, I take care of the festivals, as well as the accounts, management, and any other tasks connected to the temple. Over these last 3 years, we've had an increasing number of visitors, not only from the Japanese archipelago, but also from abroad, especially from Southeast Asia. We've also noticed an increase in the number of visitors. And this is not just down to the media, but also to the work that's been done in promoting the beauty of our temple to foreign tourists. The top floor of the temple houses a magnificent hall. It has a rudimentary altar where offerings are left. Only the priest is allowed access to the image of the relevant deity, hidden behind the hangings. Modern Shintoism doesn't insist on any particular belief. It acts more as a social link which unites the nation around everything sacred, especially nature. Every day, the miko dance to music in front of the altar. This is an important part of Shinto ritual. The tadai plant is used in the preparation of indigo, an essential dye in Japanese art and culture. It crops up in all aspects of everyday life, and some do not hesitate to refer to it as the color of Japan. In the suburbs of Kurume in the north of the island, Murayama Tarao has devoted his life to the delicate and never-ending art of searching for the perfect shade. Within the walls of this ancestral home lie just some of the secrets of a craft the family has been practicing for 200 years. The plants come from Tokushima, wrapped in parcels of rice straw, having been dried and placed in compost. The simple steps of preparing the dye require months of patience. The plants are immersed in water and fermented for 3 months. Then shellfish powder, starch, and even sake are added. The mix is made in a large vessel called the aigame, which is buried in the ground, allowing it to maintain a constant temperature. Tarao uses 4 aigame for each dyeing, each with a different intensity of color. The fabric is soaked in each bath in turn, starting with the darkest, the objective being to master the color's oxidization. Carefully rinsed and wrung out, the fabric can be soaked up to 40 times in the various baths, depending on the intensity of color required. If you asked me to replicate the same color in 6 months' time, it would be difficult. I'm a craftsman. I fine-tune the dye until I get the color I've chosen, or that I've been asked for. In order to produce the sought-after kurumi kazuri fabrics used in making kimonos, Tarao must do a great deal of painstaking preparation, consisting of making small knots where the dye will not penetrate, so creating little white spots in the dyed cloth. The thread is then worked on a loom, another job requiring a great deal of experience and precision. His mother is the house expert, using a skill transmitted from one generation to the next, and which is part of UNESCO's cultural heritage. Sometimes I present my work at competitions, and I sometimes win prizes, which gives me a great deal of satisfaction. On the other side of the river, the Saga region is home to beautiful old houses surrounded by paddy fields. The really old buildings are increasingly rare, the majority of them having been destroyed to make room for more modern constructions. But these old wooden, usually thatched houses testify to a know-how which is gradually being lost. Masaoki Matsueda is an architect. He specializes in the renovation and preservation of this fragile heritage. Here in Saga, he salvages everything he can before getting rid of anything which is damaged or rotten. Nearby, in his association's workshop, Nihon Minka Saisei gathers old beams, planks, and other essential materials from derelict houses around the area. When a component needs to be rebuilt, it will be done with locally sourced wood, using traditional tools. Masayuki pays a visit to the Igawa family, who recently moved into one of these renovated homes. He proudly shows off all the original features which were restored after months of hard work. The owners of these wonderful houses don't realize their value and often pull them down. Our mission is to show them the value of this heritage so that they preserve it rather than future generations having to restore them in years to come. The owner of this house has made no concessions to modern styles. Everything has been faithfully preserved or renovated, particularly this central hearth, which is used for heating as well as cooking. Changing a thatched roof is a very specialized job, and finding craftsmen qualified to do it nowadays is extremely difficult. Luckily, we've found a craftsman in Saga who knows how to change thatch in the traditional way. The problem is that because of current laws concerning building, craftsmen like him can only work on this kind of restoration, which limits their opportunities to find work. And I worry about these jobs disappearing. Pottery and ceramics have an important part to play in the Kyushu way of life. This is the Soekyu family's workshop in a small hamlet near Urishino.
We use the dami technique of ceramic making. We can create 5 different shades of blue, which is what our clientele is looking for.
Dami is a dilution technique which allows the creation of different shades of the same color. The elegance of the ceramics and the quality of the colors make these objects more than just pieces of crockery. Here, nature lives life to the full. This is the Kiyomizu-gawa waterfall. Mountains are the home of the gods, or kami, and everything around is sacred, and full of strange creatures like this freshwater crab. This religion, centered around communion with nature where all is sacred, the stars, the rivers, ancestors, is also in evidence here at Takachiho, with its tree thought to be the 7th oldest in Japan. This camphor tree is thought to be 3,000 years old and is visited each day by disciples from the temple below. Today, the Takachiho temple is hosting a wedding. Wedding ceremonies are very important in the social life of Japan. Whatever their living standards, families make great investments in order to honor tradition. The single photo of the bride in her kimono requires a great deal of preparation and fine-tuning. Still in Takachiho, at the Shirawai, a Kyodo team is training. Kyodo is a martial art and its teaching begins in secondary school. Kyodo is practiced in groups, supervised by a master. Following our route south, we reach Arita, which has a mythical status in the world of porcelains. In the past, Korean potters passed on to the Japanese their expertise in using kilns to make ceramics. Some of Arita's big families built a temple in memory of these Korean craftsmen. Higher up in the valley, Okawashi village is entirely devoted to ceramics. Ancient kilns are still sometimes used, and are a reminder of how, in days gone by, people used rudimentary means of insulation to ensure that they reached high temperatures. Takao Kawasui and his daughter reproduce themes inspired by the Nabeshima tradition, work which requires faultless precision. People come from far and wide to buy this craft work, the designs of which are recorded in books and passed on from one generation to the next. These are all Imane motifs from the town of Imane. They're an important heritage. We reach the coast of the Ariake Sea. The village of Kubotacho is a major center for the production of nori seaweed, a vital ingredient in Japanese cuisine. It all starts in these basins where oyster shells, to which microscopic grafts have been applied, have soaked for a year. The grafts are placed on the oyster shells and they're left to soak for a year to grow. And once they reach this color, the color we have here, or redder still, that's when the spores are ready to come out. When the temperature of the sea water reaches 23 degrees, that will be the moment to transfer them to the sea. That's supposed to happen around the 17th of October this year. This is seaweed gatherer Sugomachi. He's getting ready to take over the baton with the grafts. The high tides here can reach 6 meters, which explains the height of the posts to which the boats are moored. There's no need for notices or signs. Each family knows where their production area is. Each patch is someone's territory. There's one here, one over there, and we work as a family here. And everyone knows the boundaries of their zone. At this present moment, preparations are being made for the arrival of the grafts. A net will be attached to these huge poles and will then be seeded. And so begins a critical period where it's essential that the algae take hold and begin to grow. So 10 days after the grafts have been attached and taken root, they start to develop the qualities that give them their unique flavor. The height of the tides, the fact that at some points during the day they're exposed to the air, this to and fro between the air and the seawater are what gives the seaweed its distinctive and unique flavor. That's Ariake seaweed. The difference between Ariake seaweed and those that are grown elsewhere is that Ariake is exposed to the air for about 2 hours a day, whereas in other places the seaweed is always underwater, and it's that difference that gives the exceptional flavor to Ariake. The seaweed is sold at around $5.40 a packet, which makes all of the effort worthwhile. Nori seems to be present at every meal. The simplest way to eat it is just with rice. Or perhaps as maki, little mouthfuls garnished with fish or vegetables. Opposite the Ariake Sea on the west coast lie the Kagoshima Islands, also known as the 99 Islands, with their magnificent views. Each bay here is home to oyster beds, most of them pearl-producing. The combination of water quality, the tides and the temperature help to produce pearls of the highest quality. Our journey south takes us past the numerous volcanoes which dot the islands and which have molded the landscape. The plumes of smoke over the forest, the frothing water, and the smell of sulfur are all indications that we are on the slopes of the Mount Onsen volcano. The place is very popular with the Japanese, who come to stay at inns offering hot baths along with gastronomic and more healthy menus. It's the custom to spend the day moving from one bath to another. These Japanese baths are called onsen. They're fed by geothermal waters, some of which are very hot. People come here to relax and meditate. A few years ago, they were even unisex. Yumeno and Yuna regularly use the onsen. The greater the contrast with the outside temperature, the better.
It's great being next to the volcano, but what really makes the difference in these onsen is the quality of the water. Then when you get into the bath, you get the chance to relax, to chat about this and that, about your boyfriend, about school, about work.
In the village, the Ishinose family workshop is a hive of activity. They make tofu and start by pulping soya beans. The brew is then steamed. The soya milk is kept and a coagulant is added. This could be lemon juice or vinegar, which will help to curdle the mixture. This artisan method, which has been handed down through 3 generations, creates a product which is more delicate and more sought after than anything produced on an industrial scale. It's a combination of skill and experience. Every ingredient counts. The quality of the water, controlling the temperature of the soya, whether it's summer or winter, whatever season. It's become instinctive. We've been doing it for so many years. The tofu will be eaten on its own with a fermented sauce, deep fried, or maybe in a soup such as miso. In the center of the island on the west coast, Kumamoto Castle bears the scars of the latest earthquake. A great deal of damage was caused to many parts of the fortress, which had until then resisted the many earth tremors that Japan knows so well. A good hour's drive away, the Aso volcano is being closely monitored. The caldera, one of the biggest in the world, is ringed by a spectacular road which goes part of the way round. This volcanic range actually features around 15 volcanic cones. The caldera is home to the town of Aso, among others, and around 100,000 people inhabit the area. The vegetation here is particularly lush, and many farmers take advantage of the fertile soil. According to experts, the history of these volcanoes dates back to between 80,000 and 300,000 years in some cases, which helps to explain their varied appearance. The most active of these volcanoes is Nakadake. Its last eruption in April 2016 claimed almost 50 victims, and landslides caused a great deal of damage to the road network. The soil quality here is excellent, and the area is home to the Akaoshi breed of cattle, which produces the highly prized Wagyu beef. They thrive on this exceptional environment, as well as the pampering which helps to produce tender and tasty meat. Tetsuya Ono treats his 40-odd cows with great respect, and their feed is appropriate to their reputation. I feed them a mix of corn, wheat, and wild herbs. Japan has a great many black cows. They are more fatty, whereas the brown cows are leaner and taste better. This is one of the things which makes the reputation of Aso cows throughout the country. Our journey now takes us to the village of Takachiho, which sits on the outside of the caldera. Kai Masaya's plantation mainly produces kamari cha, a type of green tea from the region which is gradually disappearing as its cultivation is very labor-intensive. His fields are equipped with fans which are used in winter to dissipate any potential freezing fog, which would cause the tea leaves to be damaged by frost. Despite having 5 hectares to look after, Kai has some very sophisticated equipment to help him harvest the leaves. The reason that there are fewer and fewer people working to produce kamari cha, it's quite simple. The young population here is in decline, and those that are here don't want to grow tea. The old people who do, the 70-year-olds, are declining too, so it's difficult to find anyone to take over. It isn't possible to produce kamari cha in large daily quantities like you can with sencha. We can only produce small amounts. The harvest isn't an issue. It's the fermentation that takes longer than sencha. And that's the reason why we have a smaller yield. Takachiho lies at the bottom of spectacular gorges dug through the volcanic rock of Aso by the Gokase River. The plant kingdom has reclaimed several kilometers of the terrain. In some places, the waterfalls make way for the peaceful river. Legend has it that these gorges and the river are home to gods from the surrounding mountains in the finest tradition of Shinto lore. A greater insight into the importance of these deities in local everyday life is offered by the work of Hiroaki Kudo and his son, who make masks representing some of these gods. This is my favorite mask. Its features are well delineated. The hair stands up straight. It really is the one I like best. He relates how in ancient times there were almost 800,000 gods. But they concentrate on the 12 who are most important in the culture of the Takachiho gorges. This mask represents the god named Tajikara Onomikoto. The ancient legends tell that he had an important role to play, that he had the power to make gods come out from their hiding places in the rock. To better understand the significance of these masks, we watch the rehearsals of a dance troupe as they prepare their interpretation of a selection of Yokagura scenes in a hall near the temple. This tradition has been practiced for 1,000 years on winter evenings to ensure abundant crops and harvests. Accompanied by a drum and a shakuhachi flute, tales are told of Amaterasu and her retinue of gods. In Shinto mythology, Amaterasu is the sun goddess and ancestor to all of Japan's emperors. She is said to have introduced rice, wheat, and silkworms to Japan. She's represented on the Japanese flag as the solar disk. Further south, the landscape once more becomes mountainous and the forests more dense. This is the edge of the Kirishima National Park. As is often the case, the Shiroichi Temple nestles in the midst of unspoiled nature. While it is usually unoccupied, it's there that any traveler can pay homage to his surroundings. There are several volcanoes within the park, including the still active Mount Shimoedake, which belches out plumes of particularly toxic fumes to ward off those who may get too close. Its last eruption in 2011 caused thick clouds of smoke, which cut off all air and rail traffic for a time, but fortunately caused no casualties. Downhill, the crater of the extinct Mount Fudu volcano is home to a tranquil lake which reflects the color of the sky. In the valley, Masahiro Ogura perpetuates the local secular tradition of making washi, a highly reputed variety of paper. He uses kaji bark, which is also a favorite with the local deer population. The fibers are steeped before being beaten and shredded. Masahiro then prepares to mold the sheets in a bamboo frame. His business is successful, but he worries about the future. The main problem with the trade nowadays is finding qualified people. I try not to be pessimistic, but it is getting much harder to keep trades like this alive. Once the sheets have been peeled off, they are drained before being put through a press and dried. Masahiro produces different grades of paper, with different densities being used for different purposes. This type of paper is used to make labels for high-end bottles of sake and shochu. We reach Kagoshima at the southern end of the island. Its location in a bay facing Mount Sakurajima volcano has earned it the name of the Naples of the East. The lords of the Shimazu clan appreciated it and built their homes here from the 16th century. In 1850, the clan's 28th descendant, Nariakira, decided to create something that would enhance the image of Japan and could be sold abroad. A fusion of the Western arts of glassmaking and ancient carving techniques perfected by Edo craftsmen, the art of colored glasswork knew an immediate success. Relaunched in the 1880s, the idea consists of superimposing a layer of transparent glass on a layer of colored glass. This is a delicate operation, demanding a fusion temperature of 1500 degrees. Once they've been cut and carved, the pieces are then taken to a nearby workshop to undergo another highly skilled process. They are sculpted and then polished. An ornate vase can require up to 6 months to complete. These vases, glasses and tea services are then sold all over the world at prices commensurate with their reputation and the work that has gone into making them. There's a 3-month waiting list for anyone who wishes to order one of these pieces. Mount Sakurajima volcano is also very active and has been almost constantly since 1995, with 100 or 200 explosions each year and a few pyroclastic flows. The significant population living around the bay lives with the permanent threat of a major eruption. Artist Saku Kazuide collects lava, which is in plentiful supply, and turns it into ornaments. Living by a volcano? No, it doesn't frighten me. I was born here in Sakurajima. There are plenty of observation posts around the volcano, so I'm not scared. Its behavior is monitored in case it erupts. The early signs are generally detectable, so no, I'm not frightened. During the 19th century, a few kilometers from Kagoshima, then called Satsuma, the samurai gathered at the magnificent palace called Chiran. In 1877, the country's modernization brought about the end of feudalism. For the samurai, who were warriors emblematic of military nobility, this represented the loss of social status, privilege, and power. Nearly 500 families lived here, and some of their descendants have joined forces to preserve their heritage. The work of maintaining the gardens is as painstaking as ever. Makurazaki is the southernmost point of Kyushu Island, in the shadow of the Mount Kaimondaki volcano. This is where the typhoons which often batter the islands come in. It's a hard and exposed landscape, but the soil is ideal for growing sweet potatoes, a regional speciality. Most of the yield is used to make shochu, a distilled drink similar to sake. The Satsuma Shuzo Shoshu factory was founded in 1936. It has remained in its original location while gradually updating some of its equipment. The sweet potatoes are cooked and mashed before being taken to fermentation vats. The Japanese have been drinking sake for many years. But in Kagoshima, it was always sweet potato wine. But it's now popular throughout Japan, and it's noticeable that shoshu consumption has reached a similar level to that of sake. The whole brewing process takes 18 days, followed by a lengthy distillation. The most sought-after bottles are as valuable as the best vintage wines. Mount Kaimondake has been dormant for a good 1,000 years and watches over the fishing boats returning from several weeks at sea with a full cargo. This boat is delivering 630 tons of frozen tuna and bonito, which will be sold at auction in a matter of minutes. Tuna is usually eaten raw, but here in Kyushu, bonito is turned into katsuobushi flakes, which are used as a condiment in everyday cooking. At the auction, an unusual ritual takes place. Potential buyers throw wooden slats towards the auctioneer on which they've written the quantities they want to buy. A large proportion of the morning's sales make their way to production sites of katsuobushi in the town. The bonito are first cooked in huge steam baths before the bones are removed by hand. The bonito are then drained before being placed in a wood-fired smoker for several days. The fish is now completely dried, smoked, and once polished, looks almost exactly like a piece of wood. The block of bonito is then grated into very thin flakes. It's used in many dishes in Kyushu, such as those served in this Izakaya, a kind of Japanese bistro. The customers do not necessarily know each other, but sit together at a table around a chef who offers a variety of dishes or cooks specific dishes to order. The plates are usually filled with raw fish and the glasses with shochu. The regulars have a bottle with their name on it. The image of this warm and lively table shows how Kyushu Island still has many surprising secrets to reveal and offers a different aspect of Japan anchored in nature and tradition.